So, hello there everyone and welcome, it is Niran here, and today it is time for me to give you my predictions for the Formula 1 driver market for 2019. It's that time of the year, silly season is in full flow. There's plenty of drivers moving around, rumoured to be moving around, and today I'm going to be giving you my opinion as to what I think, combined with what I hope, I guess, sort of happens. Hopefully I'm going with what I think rather than what I hope, but there are some instances where, yeah, you'll see as we go along. You'll see as we go along. But I'll be predicting all 10 of the teams and who their driver lineups are going to be. And trust me, there's quite a bit of change. Obviously, we've already seen a bit of change. I'll go through the confirmed teams regardless. But if you're going to enjoy the video, slap a like on it and, of course, subscribe if you are new to the channel. So let's start off very easy and very calmly with Mercedes. Now, obviously, they've already confirmed that both Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas are going to be, well, they've signed 2-year contracts. They're going to be at Mercedes until 2021, which is all well and good. I probably agree with that, to be honest with you. Lewis Hamilton, unsurprisingly, getting that 2-year contract. He's one of the best drivers on the grid right now, if not the best driver in form on the grid right now. Doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Valtteri Bottas as well doesn't surprise me. It might surprise some people who just base their judgment off tables and stuff, and obviously Hamilton is quite substantially ahead of Bottas. If you compare it to the Hungarian Grand Prix as well, Bottas was a bit messy in that race, but over the course of the season, Valtteri should have won a couple more races. He should have won in Baku, he could have won in Bahrain, probably should have won in China as well, but the strategy messed up for him. So Ferrari, team number 2, second I believe in the Constructors' Championship right now as I'm recording this. It might not stay that way, it's very close at the top of Formula 1 these days. Sebastian Vettel again is already confirmed for next season, and I believe the 2 seasons on from that as well, so 2021 he'll be staying there till the majority of people, as you'll know, will be on 2-year contracts so that they can weigh up their options before the new regulation change in 2021. That driver market will be absolutely mental. Absolutely mental. You could see people going all over the gaff in that one. Next year's will probably be quite boring. This year's should be quite interesting. We'll get on to why, but Sebastian Vettel at Ferrari. A lot of talk, obviously, as to who will be in the second Ferrari. Kimi Raikkonen has been rumoured to be getting booted out of the Scuderia for about the last 3 years now, and it's never really materialised because there hasn't necessarily been a Ferrari Junior who can step up to the plate straight away. However, this year, let's not beat around the bush, there is definitely someone ready in my opinion. He's still quite young and he's still only done 1 year in Formula 1, and this is obviously Charles Leclerc. He is, I believe, mentally ready for the challenge. I think in terms of skill, he's ready for the challenge. It is quite a big thing, obviously, and he still is young. He still is young, but I do actually think, for once, Ferrari will take the risk and put in a young driver. And the reason why is because previously, like in the past, when it's come to rumours of Raikkonen leaving and getting replaced, it's always been the media, and it's always been us saying, Kimi Raikkonen should be replaced, he's washed, he's over the hill, get someone else in the car. It's never actually Ferrari initiating those talks and those rumours. However, this year, they've openly said they'd be willing to consider Charles Leclerc, and he's been openly said to be in the pipeline for it, potentially. They're still undecided, or last time we checked, they're still undecided, but Ferrari have openly this time actually discussed that as a possibility, whereas that simply hasn't happened before. For now, we need to jump onto Red Bull, and this is where all the carnage began, as far as this transfer window is concerned, or this silly season, because Daniel Ricciardo recently announced he was going to Renault. First of all, I think actually that's quite a good decision, I'm not going to lie to you. The Honda partnership could be one of 2 things. It could be absolutely brilliant for Red Bull, or it could be an absolute tragedy. To be honest with you, I think it's more likely to be the second option. I still don't think they're going to see improvement going into next season. I don't think they'll find themselves closer to Ferrari and Mercedes in 2019. So that's the first thing. I do think it's a good idea. Renault obviously a works team. They've been on the rise. They've been improving since they came back in. And going forward, I don't know. I think Max Verstappen has a better chance of winning a championship in that Red Bull than Daniel Ricciardo has. So I think he's got to jump ship. He's 29. He's not a young driver anymore, as it's been put by several people in different videos. He is getting on. So obviously he's jumped ship to Renault. I'll talk about that in a second, very briefly. But in my opinion, the man who will replace Daniel Ricciardo is going to be Pierre Gasly. And I'll tell you why I don't think it's going to be other drivers. For a start, people have been saying it might be Alonso. No, that's just not going to happen. They're not going to want that war between Max Verstappen and Alonso. It would end tragically. We all know that would be the case. In the same sense, I don't think they'll go for Carlos Sainz. They both didn't really get along at Toro Rosso. If they wanted to have friction within the partnership, they'd go for Alonso, but I know for a fact they're not going to do that anyway. So for me, Carlos Sainz, although I would love him to get the Red Bull seat, and I think he deserves it over Pierre Gasly, I don't think he'll get it. Pierre Gasly is a safe option. He's a young driver. Just pump him up from Toro Rosso into Red Bull. Will he be ready? Will he be another Kvyat? We don't know. Hopefully he isn't. Hopefully he does step up to the plate. That's what I think Red Bull will be. Verstappen and Gasly. As far as Renault concerned, we know what that's going to be. They've already confirmed that Daniel Ricciardo has obviously joined them from Red Bull, and Nico Hülkenberg will be the second driver, which opens up Carlos Sainz, because that means he's not going to be driving for Renault anymore, which is an interesting one. Next up is Haas, by far the pick of the midfield at the moment, and you're going to find this one a very interesting one. So first of all, we kept Kevin Magnussen. Don't see any reason for Haas to get rid of him. I think he's had a very good season. Slightly controversial one in getting involved in incidents, or, well, not necessarily incidents and crashes, but just into situations with the other drivers around him. But I think he'll be kept on by the American outfit. But I think, hear me out on this one, I think the man to partner him is going to be Sergio Perez. There's pros and cons to this. We'll start off with the cons. Cons-wise, the only reason I can see this not happening is because it's a step sideways for Sergio Perez. It's not necessarily an improvement. However, pros-wise, I mean, it would be very difficult for him to stay at Force India, given he's literally suing the team at the moment. I mean, that's probably got to be something that's getting in the way of negotiations, potentially. And obviously, Lance Stroll has been linked with that seat a lot. Mercedes, I feel, would like to have Esteban Ocon in a car of some kind. I'd be very surprised if they just let him slip and didn't really try and coerce Force India, let's say, into keeping him on. Otherwise, the only real other option for him is probably jumping back into DTM, and the Mercedes have lost him forever, realistically, and he's just another Pascal Wehrlein, and he does not deserve that fate whatsoever. So I think Sergio Perez will jump over to Haas. I think he'll make the step sideways and he'll join them. He's done all he can do at Force India as well. Like, what is left to do for Sergio Perez at Force India? He's not going to win races. He's got several podiums. He's overachieved in the car. And at this point, Ocon is better than him. Force India I mentioned briefly there, in the sense that Lance Stroll is linked with them. Force India into administration in severe financial troubles. And it seems like Lance Stroll's dad and massively rich Canadian billionaire, is gonna loan out, is gonna bail out the team even, and he's gonna buy them. And that would obviously 100% mean Lance Stroll joins. Like, let's be honest here. If Lawrence Stroll is going to buy Force India, Lance Stroll is going to end up at the team as well. And I think he'll partner Esteban Ocon, because I think either Mercedes will try and coerce Force India into it. Next up, we've got McLaren. Now, this is another very difficult one. This is one of quite a few similar ones, in the sense that I think they're going to lose a driver, so it's difficult for them to then get rid of the other driver, and I'll explain that in some more detail. First of all, I know a lot of people are saying Fernando Alonso is going to stay. I genuinely think, it might be misguided, and I realise that, but I genuinely think Fernando Alonso is going to leave McLaren, and he's going to leave Formula 1. I genuinely think he's going to go to IndyCar and try and win this Triple Crown, because if he doesn't do it soon, he's actually going to miss out on it. And I know you can be slightly older in IndyCar, potentially, than in Formula 1. You know, you can go a little bit longer, the likes of Castro Neves and Juan Pablo Montoya, and obviously Scott Dixon and stuff, slightly older than you would be at your oldest in Formula 1. Usually you get to 40, and that's pretty much the cutoff point, like that absolute cutoff point for Formula 1, whereas it's slightly higher in IndyCar. I just do not see Fernando Alonso looking at this car that now isn't even powered by Honda, it's powered by Renault, and is still suffering from the same issues, is still as average as it was before, and genuinely thinking, yes, I'm going to stay. It's just not going to happen. He already teased about it massively at the start of the year. It looks as if it was decided at the start of the year, though it's now a little bit more ambiguous. I think everyone had fully looked at the situation and been like, yes, this is Alonso's last season. It's definitely happening, whereas now it seems a little bit more mysterious. I still think he's going to leave. So obviously with that, it becomes slightly difficult for McLaren to put a very good driver lineup together, because obviously Stoffel Van Dorn has been linked with a move away from McLaren because he simply hasn't been performing this season, though in my opinion I think they've tried to suit the car to Alonso more to try and keep him. But if Alonso's going to leave, like I believe he's going to, I can't see how McLaren can feasibly get rid of Van Dorn as well. To be honest, with Alonso leaving, if that is going to happen, I think we'll be forced into keeping Van Dorn for at least one more year. So I think they'll keep Van Dorn, and then I think they'll go for another Spaniard. I don't see why, in the knowledge that Carlos Sainz is probably going to get cast adrift by everybody he's currently with, being Red Bull and Renault, why McLaren wouldn't look at him and say, yes, he is the man to go for. He'd be the best driver available on the driver market for a start, and he also has great knowledge of the Renault engine, having driven for the Works team. He provides so much great information and insight into how the Renault partnership and Renault engine works in comparison to maybe McLaren. Hopefully, again, that's where I'm slightly hopeful, because I don't want to see Carlos Sainz ditched from F1 completely. McLaren would, I think, if I'm honest, be one of his best bets, because apart from that, all he's got is going back to Toro Rosso. And that would be worse. If I was him, I'd rather go to McLaren, risk it. He's not going to get a seat at Red Bull for at least 2 years if he goes back there. At least go to McLaren, see how it goes, and then go from there. Toro Rosso is another difficult one. And again, very similar in the sense that, according to this prediction so far, they're losing a driver, and especially with these guys, it becomes almost implausible to get rid of the other one because of the lack of people they can actually go for Toro Rosso at the moment. And I'll explain why. If Gasly's going to Red Bull, they're left with Brendan Hartley. That is it. If you look at that Red Bull program, Dan Ticktum A, isn't ready, B, isn't allowed to take on that Toro Rosso seat. He isn't ready, he's an F3 driver now, and I know Verstappen went straight from F3, I think Ocon did something similar, I think he did a bit of DTM first, but he definitely is not ready. Dan Ticktum is different to Max Verstappen. Barring that, there's nobody. I'm sure they used to have Alex Albon and Sete Kamara and somebody else who's in Formula 2 right now, in their Red Bull program, and they sacked them all off. I don't know why, because you would have had a perfect replacement probably in Alexander Albon straight away, and you could have just slapped him in the car, but no, they've screwed it over. So I think Brendan Hartley will get another life, and I think he'll stay with the New Zealander. And it was linked in Monaco during the course of this season. I think they'll somehow manage to strike a deal with McLaren and bring in Lando Norris on what is in essence, I imagine, a loan deal, in a similar way that Carlos Sainz was a bit of a loan deal from Red Bull to Renault. I think they'll do a similar thing there. I think Toro Rosso, there's this whole thing with James Key as well, a technical director who is apparently signed for McLaren, apparently hasn't, and there'll be some sort of weird and sketchy trade deal that will go on, and Lando Norris will end up with Toro Rosso to partner Brendan Hartley. Sauber is next up. Pretty simple one. Ericsson, again, if they're losing Leclerc, they can hardly get rid of Marcus Ericsson. He brings them funds. He's a relatively decent driver. And with Leclerc going, the main, I can't see Kimi Raikkonen driving in a Sauber, if I'm going to be brutally honest with you. So the next best thing really is Antonio Giovinazzi. I think that would make a lot of sense. He's been testing with them at Budapest. He's been doing practice sessions with them. It would make sense. He's a Ferrari junior and he's a good driver. Williams, again, a team that have lost a driver and hence can't probably afford to get rid of the other one. And I mean that in both senses this time, because Sergei Sorokin brings home substantial wads of cash. To be honest with you, apart from going for someone like a Sergio Perez or somehow convincing an Esteban Ocon or a Carlos Sainz to join, who's just randomly floating about in the driver's market, or a Romain Grosjean at this point, who I haven't accounted for yet, the only thing I can think they're going to do is go for George Russell, who I imagine either him or Lando Norris is going to win F2. Both of them, I think, are going to end up in Formula 1 anyway next season, so it doesn't really make a difference as to who. But George Russell, Mercedes Jr., Williams have Mercedes partnership. Again, it's probably a situation Mercedes will cut them a bit of a deal, cheaper engines if you run George Russell this season. Williams will be like, alright, cool, that's going to save us some cash, and they'll probably take him on. Now, notable mentions, didn't mention anyone like Romain Grosjean in that, who knows? And the reason why I discounted him and didn't actually explain it at the time was he's been so crash happy this season, and Gunter Steiner's been very open about it. If I'm honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they kept him. Like, it's a bit of that's a bit more of a debatable one. I wouldn't be surprised if Haas were like, you know what, Bunny, we'll just keep Magnussen and Grosjean for ease of the situation. Perez is a lot more consistent, less crash happy, probably saves us a bit more money, but they might just play it safe and keep Grosjean. If Grosjean was to leave, who even knows where he'd end up? WEC, World Endurance Championship probably, Formula E maybe, but yeah, I can't see him getting another drive in Formula 1 if Haas boot him out. Fernando Alonso, we already mentioned. I would be surprised if he doesn't go over to IndyCar and try and win this Triple Crown after getting, obviously, being a Formula 1 champion and winning the Le Mans 24 Hours. Kimi Raikkonen, I mentioned briefly in relation to Sauber. I just can't visualise him in a Sauber. It would be quite a coup if they could pull it off, and it'd be quite nice as well to have maybe him and Giovinazzi. I think if they were to sign Raikkonen, they'd probably bin off Ericsson. To be brutally honest with you, I think they'd probably try and have Giovinazzi to go for the veteran and then youngster partnership, but I just don't see it happening in my mind. De Vries, mentioned him briefly as well from F2. He's having an alright season actually, but I can imagine he'll just be picked up as a McLaren reserve, just in case things go Pete Tong with Van Dorn, and then maybe they could bring him in. Lando Norris, of course, from Toro Rosso. Alexander Albon isn't really affiliated with a team, I don't think, right now in Formula 1. He's one of very few drivers that isn't part of a young program at all within one of F1's teams, and that can often be quite a disadvantage these days because it means, well, where would he possibly go? Unless he ends up at someone like a Toro Rosso or drafted in at Williams, it's quite a difficult one in this day and age to get into F1 without being part of someone's young driver program. I would like to think he'd end up being a reserve driver maybe, as well as trying to win F2 next year if he doesn't win it this year. And then finally, Artem Markelov, who's been linked a bit with Renault. That's obviously not going to happen now. He might just have to settle with being a reserve driver for next season and maybe staying with Russian time in F2. But that rounds up my predictions for the 2019 Formula 1 driver lineup, if you like, across all of the teams. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think is going to happen next season. There is plenty of talk, plenty of rumours, and plenty of potential for different driver lineups. The market, the driver market in silly season is going to go into overdrive this year. It's going to be sick, and I'm really looking forward to seeing who ends up where next year. Let me know what you think is going to happen down in the comment section below. Give me all of the lineups you think are going to happen that are different to what I talk about in this video. And if you enjoyed the video overall, then slap a like on it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. You can also follow me on social media these days too. My Twitter handle is @theofficialfng, and my Instagram is the same. Links are down below. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a great day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.
I want you, you want me, I know that. Oh shit, fuck all these movies with 10 and there's that fit with too much emotion. Oh shit, she said love is a poison, so use it with caution. Oh shit, fuck all these movies with 10 and there's that fit with too much emotion. I ain't fucking with these love songs, never, never.